Hello, friends. I am back again this week to talk tech and AI like I do every Tuesday. And this week we are talking about Nvidia, the stock market's favorite high and is still going. So at the time I am streaming this, we're currently sitting at 516 US dollars, which is an all-time high. It's been at an all-time high pretty much over the last few hours. And the reason why the stock is pinging so much is because of the announcements that Nvidia have just made at CES, which is the self-proclaimed most powerful tech event in the world. It seems like Nvidia is pretty much the star of the show so far. They have made a bunch of announcements which are getting gamers very excited, but far more importantly, in terms of stock price, it's all about AI. And so the first thing, the big sort of headline grabber that they've announced is new chips, basically. So it's a mid-generation refresh on their RTX chips. So the new one is called the RTX 4080. I'm going to share my screen and show you a bit of information on this one. So hopefully you will be able to see this. Let me just check that my live streaming is working. Yes, there we go. So the RTX 4080 Super, it's going to arrive on January 31st at a more reasonable $999. And this is something that's got gamers very excited. It's going to speed up dramatically the graphics processing that you can do on games. The reason why these chips were invented in the first place is to process graphics. And it was only really a kind of happy accident that they seem to be so good for working with AI. Now, I'm going to come on to talk about that a little bit later. But first of all, on this, so they're saying that this RTX 4080 Super can run pretty much anything at 4K with ray tracing enabled. So for those of you that don't know what ray tracing is, it's essentially where the graphics process the light coming in and it traces the rays of light basically, and so you can see the light bouncing around. So you see it in things like puddles, or if there's like in a game, if there's like if you've got like wet walls or whatever, like slime. Example is because it's very compute heavy to track that, and I mean, for my money, it doesn't really add that much. Like I wouldn't really notice it in the real world, but people who really care about this stuff very much do care about it. And so ray tracing is a big thing, and it just gives you an example of the kind of power that this chip has. So they've released another a couple of others on this RTX series, which you can check out. It's it's on The Verge, it's on a bunch of different places. But I think for me anyway, I mean, for this channel, this isn't a gaming channel, and much as I do enjoy gaming myself occasionally, that's not really why I wanted to do a video about Nvidia, and it's not the reason why Nvidia stock is pumping at the moment and hitting that all-time high, which as of right now, let's have another check. Yeah, so it's around 516 still, putting their market cap at a sensational $1.28 trillion. That's an insane amount of potential growth that people think they've got. And the reason why is because GPUs are so perfect for use in generative AI. And the reason for that, for those, I've kind of covered this in previous videos, but the reason for that is that your traditional CPU doesn't, a GPU computes things in a different way. And the way it does it is not in series like a CPU does. And, for any real serious computer scientists watching, I'm going to apologize in advance if I butcher this scientific explanation. But GPUs compute things in parallel. And the reason why that is important is because with generative AI, particularly with transformers, it's really important to calculate lots of different possibilities at the same time. So this type of processing for deep learning, you're essentially predicting the probabilities of the next token, right? So, for basically for the next word, the next thing that the generative AI is going to say. And so the GPUs are able to calculate lots of these different layers all at the same time. And were a happy accident, as I said. And over time, they've become more and more closely tuned to the needs of AI rather than to the needs of computer games. And so they've now developed, they developed what is called a tensor core, which is 60 times more powerful than the first generation designs. And tensor cores are very much particularly tuned for LLMs, and they have helped um, companies like OpenAI really explode because they're able to, to compute this particular type of maths, this particular type of linear algebra um, at scale. So as far as I understand it, the actual maths isn't super complicated, but it's just the brute force that you need to compute lots of things all at the same time. That was the real breakthrough. And so Nvidia have really been the beneficiaries of this insane kind of jump in capabilities for large language models, which we saw particularly pertinently with the launch of ChatGPT, with GPT-3, GPT 3.5, now GPT-4. So that's really why this is pumping right now. So what we're also going to do is look at the other stuff that they have announced. So firstly, just to close the circle on AI, they were talking a lot about AI. They were talking about chatbots that you can train with documents stored locally on your computer, which like local AI is something that's really going to take off. We've seen with the Google Gemini announcement, they're doing different sizes of LLMs. So the smaller versions are going to be designed to be on your devices, and that over the course of this coming year, having models that are designed to work locally is going to be incredibly powerful. And the reason why that's going to be incredibly powerful is because it spreads out access to this technology. You don't need to have access to these massive data centers full of NVIDIA GPUs to get results from a large language model. You don't need to make API calls all the time. You can actually do the compute locally. That's going to be a game changer because it means the compute is right next to the sensor. And that is at a macro level why that's how the economy works, right? That's why capitalist economies function better than planned economies, is because the compute, i.e., the people, is next to the sensor, i.e., what's happening. And so, on a grand scale, having this degree of compute next to the input, i.e., it doesn't need to be sent across, Wi-Fi or Starlink or whatever it may be that you're using, back through an API call to a data center. It can just be done locally. It's going to open up all sorts of different possibilities. So that's going to be super exciting as well. They've been talking about that. They've been talking about AI-powered NPCs in games, which will be able to have dynamic conversations with you as you play. So really, I mean, that's not a big surprise. Anyone who's interacted with ChatGPT will understand that that was probably going to be a possibility. But another thing that they have announced that I do want to talk about, and I'm going to share my screen here to show you guys, is an announcement that they have made again. So all of these announcements happened at CES, which is why they've just dropped a whole heap of news on people, and the market has gone, okay, thank you, yes, I'll have some of that. So Getty and Nvidia are bringing generative AI to stock photos. So if there are any content creators amongst you you'll know that getting access to stock is often a kind of it's a journey. It's a journey down a weird road. There are lots of strange stock photos, but you don't always get what you want. And so this is why you know Mid-Journey, Stable Diffusion, image generation LLMs generally have been such a revelation, is because you can ask for the exact picture that you want and you can get it. But those models, as I'm sure you'll all have seen, are going to be subject to court cases. There are but I believe Getty Getty sued Stable Diffusion back in Feb of this year. So clearly, Getty have been very worried about this because it has the potential to entirely wipe out their business model completely. But they are now deepening their partnership with the launch of generative AI by iStock, which is essentially a text-to-image platform specifically designed to make stock photos. So what they will have is access to an insanely massive library of stock images, which is what Getty has, and they will have the right to use them. So one of the big issues that companies like Stable Diffusion and Midjourney are going to come up with is that they have been trained on a whole heap of data, and nobody knows exactly what it is, and nobody knows whether it's copyrighted. You've seen in the news recently, OpenAI have been in trouble with the New York Times because they used New York Times copyrighted material, and you were able to tease out this copyrighted material by talking to ChatGPT. This is a big problem. OpenAI have submitted a letter to the House of Lords in the UK just today, saying that they don't believe that creating LLMs will even be possible without using some copyrighted material, because the whole internet is arguably copyrighted. Somebody's written it, and most content out there has been written by publishers or someone who's got some reason for doing it, something to gain, some business to sell, and they've these LLMs have just gone and scraped the entire internet without much regard to who owns the stuff that they're training on. Now that we know the technology works and it's broken through and it's getting all of this investment, attention is going to turn to who owns that copyright and what they're allowed to do with it. And so this clearly is a very, very wise move that that Nvidia have pulled together with Getty. So just to read through it, generative AI by iStock builds on Getty's first foray into AI image generation, generative AI by Getty Images. The difference is that the image platform from iStock, the stock photo service owned by Getty, which most people in the industry are aware of, both very big names, helps individual or single seat users, unlike Getty Images, which is more of a multi-user enterprise solution. Trained using Nvidia's Picasso model, generative AI by iStock only learned from Getty's creative library and iStock's stock photo library. It did not train on Getty's editorial image library to prevent it from generating trademarks or known personalities. So this is kind of ties into exactly what I was saying. This idea around who owns the original is going to be incredibly important over the next year, 2, 3, because people can now see how much value is going to be driven by these technologies. And so there's gonna it's like if you won the lottery, right? You would, everybody that you know would all of a sudden, and if they found out about it, would all of a sudden be texting you saying, "Hey, can I borrow a tenner?" Right? As soon as this opportunity, this gold mine has opened up, everybody wants a piece, and so anyone with any kind of claim to it is going to be trying to make their 2 cents. And the fact is that there is ownership issues, there are copyright issues, and it is going to be a problem for lots of companies, particularly by the looks of things, OpenAI. So I think it's pretty wise that these two companies are getting ahead of it. Nvidia are getting ahead of it anyway. So I mean, you can read this for yourselves. I won't go through all of it, but you can see here the pricing is around how many prompts you get. It's pretty smart. I think they are trying to look ahead and see what's going to happen to the big image generation platforms, and they reckon that court cases are going to wrap them up, and when that happens, they're going to be there. They're going to be there to hoover up all of that wonderful, wonderful business and all of that money. And the money is the reason why the stock is popping. Stock update, it's now 517. I think it was 516 when we started this. It's bouncing around. I'll share my screen quickly just so that you can see how this announcement has affected the the stock price. Whoop! Look at that. Insane. And this is where we are now. So the news is clearly proliferating out. So I think that's it. That isn't it. No, there are a couple of other big announcements as well. Sorry. So another one, they've announced a partnership with Twitch for multi-encode live streaming. So potentially one for people like me who love the sound of their own voice and talk too much. Live streaming with different resolutions. So it's the GPU allows different. You can. Some people will be looking at a stream on one platform on their phone. Others might want to look at it on another platform, on their telly, whatever it is. So multi-encode live streaming will be a big one, and that partnership is with Twitch. As I say, they are also talking about a new wave of AI-ready laptops. I've kind of touched on this already. The idea that having the compute at a local level is going to be very important. Clearly, that's something that they're looking at in great depth. They haven't given too much detail on the laptops themselves. Suffice it to say that it seems to be a pretty big deal for them and seems to be going down pretty well. There was one other piece of news that I just want to bring up that seems to be potentially one of the big things that could be pushing the stock price. And that is, and I'll share my screen just to show you the Reuters piece on this. Finally, that they are going to launch a China-focused AI chip in Q2 of 2024. Now, obviously, China is a gigantic market, and it's news about China has the capability to push stock prices vastly up and vastly down. I don't know if any of you have bought Tesla stock, you will understand the China roller coaster that the rest of us have been on. Big China news makes big China moves. And so this potentially is one of the big things that people are looking at, a China-focused chip. So it's not immediately clear what makes it particularly Chinese. And it seems to be quite hush-hush, but it's probably to do with regulation, restrictions, right? Okay, yeah, so here we are. So Nvidia plans 2 other chips that comply with new restrictions, the L10 and the L2. So yeah, it's all about Chinese regulation, basically, which most things about Chinese news are. It's about the restrictions that the US have put on China and about restrictions that China puts on its own tech firms. So I'll share the links to all of these in the notes, in the video notes. For podcast listeners, I will share them in the episode notes. I hope that this has been I hope that I haven't been too visual with this. I don't think I have. I've just been looking at news stories. So hopefully everybody listening on the pod as well has found this fun and as exciting as I have. I'm super excited about Nvidia. I'm super excited about this technology. It's clear that GPUs are going to really change the world. The bit that I'm particularly interested and excited to hear more about is this idea of having compute at the local level. So these AI ready laptops, the fact that we can all have AIs locally is going to be the step change that we as consumers really notice. So, as probably most people watching this video and most people that I interact with when I talk about AI aren't surprised by the capabilities that it has, because we've been interacting with it for years now, or reading about it or trying to understand what's going on, and keeping up to date with OpenAI releases and all the rest of it. But it's still so early. There are so many people who are not really even across any of this stuff. They maybe see some AI memes, they maybe see some AI waifu girlfriends, whatever, on their social media, and they know that it's getting good at creating pretty pictures of women or men or whatever, but they don't really understand the level of capability that it has. When you start getting local level, it's going to be a real sea change in the way that we interact with computers, in the same way that the graphics interface was, when we kind of switched from DOS terminal-based programming to a kind of consumer interactive, mouse and keyboard-based computer that people could actually engage with. I think having AI capabilities at the local level is going to be as much of a seismic shift as that was, because you're just going to be able to talk to your laptop. And with Apple Vision Pro launching their new glasses, you might just be able to be walking around with glasses and just talking to your laptop, and it will do all sorts of crazy stuff. So that's the world that we're going to be living in. The local level compute is the one that I'm super excited about. But I would love to hear what you guys think. Please do let me know. You can comment on this video if you're watching on YouTube. You can engage with me on X. I am at Tom Edwards on X. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Tom Edwards 100 on LinkedIn. Do please drop me a note. Tell me what you think. Commenters, what part of the announcement are you most excited about? Which part of the announcement do you think is going to make the biggest change to the world? And which part of the announcement do you think has moved the stock price the most? So there's your 3 questions. Let me know your answers in the comments, or hit me up on X. I would love to hear from you. For regular listeners and viewers, I've got lots of guests lined up over the next coming weeks. I'm aware that there's been quite a few weeks of just me talking at you. It's been Christmas. I've been off, and frankly, it's less admin, less admin to just jump on a live stream. But I've got lots of exciting guests coming up. They're AI guests. They're nuclear power experts. I've got founders, CEOs, CTOs. All sorts of super cool, exciting people that I'm really excited to share with you. I'm going to be talking a lot about AI. I'm going to be talking about wellness in the context of technology. I'm going to be talking about hardware. I've got a chip manufacturer coming on who shall remain nameless for now until it's completely confirmed. But yeah, so please do keep tuning in. I appreciate you all. It's going to be a massive 2024. I'm really excited about it. So please do stick with me. And that's it from me. I will see you all next week. But for now, have wonderful evenings, particularly those of you that own Nvidia stock. Alas, I do not, but I'm sure those of you that do will probably be cashing out and hitting the club at some point soon, because you'll be in the money. Congratulations. Well done for calling it. What an exciting company. What a time to be alive. I'll see you all next time.